Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. Welcome to our Batdorf and Bronson Coffee Roasters live video feed. Going to give everyone a minute to join, and then we'll fire up. What we're going to look at today, we're going to look at grind setting and how the grind setting impacts flow rate through a pour over brewer. We're going to talk very briefly and touch on how your grind size affects your flavor. We're going to talk about some strategies for dealing with that. And then tomorrow, Joshua is going to talk about grinders. He has a few different things that he's going to go a little bit deeper into coffee grinders. Good morning, everyone. I see some folk joining. All right, so let's get the business out of the way. If you need coffee, go to batdorfcoffee.com. We have a lot of specials going on. Free shipping on orders over $30. 25% discount on Dancing Goat's blend if you buy a coffee brewer. I recommend getting one of the little Melita cones. That'll get you 25% discount on your Dancing Goats. It's a pretty good deal right now. Also, if you're watching live and you go online to buy some coffee, plug in the discount code WatchAndLearn10, the number 10. That'll get you 10% off on your coffee order. All right, so today's coffee, normally I like to drink our Las Brisas from Colombia. Favorite coffee right there. But we're gonna go with one of our blends. The Colombia is a seasonal coffee, comes and goes. We buy it as it's available. Bohemian Blend here. This is one we have year round. The components of the blend, we can buy them in larger quantities. Also, we can tweak the flavors. Blends are easier to keep year round. So if you ever wonder why some come, why some go, it just has to do with seasonal availability. Blends we can keep in because we can tweak them. All right, Bohemian Blend. This is it's a blend with some good dark roast in it. It's going to be smoky and have a little bit of the pleasant pungency. It has a really deep, rich red cherry flavor to it, malty, and a little bit of this really amazing and fantastic honeysuckle tone. So, Bohemian Blend today for our coffee demo. I've set up two different coffees. Everything is going to be the same. I'm using 19 grams in each. Here's our recipe. I practiced writing backwards so that it would actually make sense today. I'm going to use 19 grams of ground coffee. I'm going to start with a 40-gram bloom. I'm going to add another 160 grams of water, and then I'll top it off with another 123 grams, bringing our total water to 323 grams, giving us that 1:17 ratio, 17 times as much weight in water as we have in beans. All right, set that aside. The only difference that I'm shooting for here is our grind size. On this one, I've made just some tiny, very small, very fine grind. Showing grind in the videos is tricky. It's pretty fine. This is a nice little powder. Turn off that noise from there. Again, pardon me if you hear some construction in the background. Our neighbors are doing some big projects. This one, we're using something much more coarse. One coffee, this larger coffee would be something I would use for a French press or a long brew on an AeroPress. Over here, this is incredibly fine drip coffee, something I would use for a very short brew on an AeroPress, or, well, I wouldn't use this for any other things. It's not quite fine enough for espresso. You could maybe mocha pot with it. Anyway, only difference between these being the grind size. What I want you to do as I start pouring through, I want you to pay attention to how quickly the two are dripping. Hopefully, I've zoomed in here real close, hopefully you can see that. So I apologize for the cramped views, but just watch to see the difference in the drip. All right, here goes our fine particle. Let's get all that in there, a little settle and tear. Take our coarse goes in, and a tear. All right, give these both a settle. All right, and we have our water. I'm using a little bit cooler water temperature. Heated my kettle to 201 degrees. The darker roast doesn't need as much water energy. And let's start our bloom on our fine coffee. About 40 grams. There we go. And same thing here on our coarse. 40 grams go into each of those. All right. Now again, the bloom cycle, this is designed to allow water to start to soak in. Lets the gases escape. That way the escaping gas won't push the water away. Can't see a whole ton there, but there is a slight difference in the bloom flow. I'm gonna bring this one up to 200 grams. Trying to saturate everything as I go. Better do my coarse one too, keep that saturated. All right, we're adding to each of these approximately 160 grams. Bring that total brew water up to 200 for this phase. And what I'm wanting to see here, I'm hoping that we can see a difference in flow rate. When we're brewing, as long as the coffee particles are touching water, they're giving out flavors. Think of it this way. If you're baking cakes, as long as those cakes are in the heat, they're baking. If you're grilling, as long as your steaks are on the heat, they're cooking. So as long as we have water contacting our coffee, it's giving up flavor. All right, now come back here. I'm gonna bring this up to our total weight of 323. If you watched our video on Monday, you would have seen the disastrous, my trial with a refillable pod and how slowly the water flowed through that. That was mostly because I'd never played with those things very much. I apologize, that was less than professional. But here, we're just making some coffee now. Add some water. I want my total brew weight to be 323 grams. And as I get close to finishing this, I'm gonna grab the camera, so I want you to see what this looks like over here. All right. Hi everybody. All right, here we are. We are looking at the difference in flow rate. All right, here's our coarse ground. Now watch how that water drains through versus our fine coffee. The water tends to... All right. So there we have two different brews. They're close enough to the same weight. 300 and... All right, put us back on here. Apparently my phone really doesn't like to be held. So we get those little glitches. All right. What I was trying to show was up top, the water drains out of this one incredibly quickly, which gives us a briefer brew time. And on this one, on the fine grinds, it's going to pool and hold back longer, which gives us more contact time with each particle. Now I know I have different vessels here. If you could see this through the light, it has a nice rich red hue. I can smell that rich, deep dark cherry. Let's get some mugs. This, I'm going to pour some out simply because it's a more narrow vessel. Try to get more light coming through that. This one is visually much thicker. I can't see through it as well. You can see a lot more light passing through this fella. Let's pour those into the mugs. In our mugs, I can even see a difference in color. Our fine grinds, we pulled a lot more coffee material out of those beans in this one than we did with our larger particles. Well, that must make this one better because it got more. More isn't always a good thing. In a previous video, we discussed the general progression of coffee flavorings, the way it comes out of the bean. Generally, we get gases, followed by organic acids and caffeine. Those organic acids are tart, bitter, or tart and sour, and bitter like a grapefruit pith. If you tried eating the rind of a grapefruit, you would taste that on a fast brew. The next flavors that start to come out, nutty, chocolatey, cocoa, I should say. Cocoa being very bitter. So we have a vegetal bitter, we have sour and tart, and then we have some cocoa bitters. Those sours and bitters, they kind of complement each other, and it makes for a a nicer balance. But it doesn't truly get good till you add some sugar. Sugar is the next phase in that coffee development. Tends to be the next thing that comes out of the coffee. I've only met a few people who can drink straight, not drink, but eat baker's chocolate, like straight up cocoa. Most of us, we need to add a little bit of sugar to it to bring it down, make it a little sweeter. So with coffee, this one's pretty okay. It didn't get quite as much sugar because the grounds were so coarse, it didn't get all that fun stuff. Over here, with the fine grind, we pushed way past sugar and we started putting in more. And again, more not better, because after sugar, we start to get those things that taste like burnt matches. We get astringencies. The smokiness in here becomes acrid, not super pleasant. I both love and hate doing these videos in this style, using the overly coarse and the overly fine, because I'm doomed to have 2 mugs, 38 grams of coffee beans to make a not good cup of coffee here and a not good cup of coffee here. Because this was too fast and too tart, sour, and vegetal bitter, and this one was too long, so we got the burnt match bitter. Yes, we're looking for that Goldilocks zone. We're looking for that something right in the middle, which I always thought was funny that we talk about Goldilocks, because if we want to go right in the middle, I always felt like the mother bear was the right in the middle one. But that's a different video, different discussion. We can do some literature analysis on the old fairy tales later. So this, what I call underdeveloped. We didn't get enough put into it. This one, we got overdeveloped. We had too much flavor put in there. Aha! Let's try something. When you're mixing colors, you mix some red and some yellow to make an orange. If it's a little too red, you can just add some more yellow and that kind of balances it out. So by that theory, if I add a little bit of underdone and a little bit of overdone, let's give that a good swirling. So right now what I have is I have underdone coffee and overdone coffee. Theoretically, based on color mixing, this should be a good cup of coffee. Nope. What this tastes like I tried baking cookies. I burnt half of them, and then I used that burnt cookie to scoop batter and eat the raw batter off of a burnt cookie, but also ate the cookie. There's nothing good about blending together two bad cups of coffee. Point being, adjust your grind size. Very small, it'll brew fast. Very big, it'll brew the greater of both evils. Yes, sir, indeed. It'll brew, it needs more contact time. So, general rule, when you go French press, big chunks, because you can control that contact time. If you're doing a pour through, if you're doing a pour over like our bee house or our Melita cones, something kind of in the middle. And this is a shameless plug here. This is one of the reasons I absolutely love La Marzocco, yes. One of the reasons why I love the AeroPress, because with the AeroPress, I can match my brew time to my grind size. I don't have to worry too much about the flow rate. Pour over, just pay a little more attention to how you're pouring. I really recommend using a grinder at home, just because it allows you to experiment and play. Coffee is so much fun. There are a lot of variables to play with, and grind setting is probably one of the most impactful. All right. Last time I made a really bad cup of coffee, everyone told me to drink it. I'm not going to do that to myself. I'll have another sip. Still not good. As you start diving deeper into grinders, you're going to be reading a lot of really interesting bits. You'll hear things about particle distribution, the differences between flat burrs versus conical burrs. As long as we're using some type of burr, we're pretty good. We're happy. We want to avoid the whirling blade type grinders because those just chop and hack and give us very inconsistent grind sizes. And the point of a grinder is to go for some consistency. I really happen to like Baratza Grinders. That's what I have right up here. That's my good old Baratza grinder. I've had that thing now for 8 years, and I've only had to replace one part on it, and that was a safety part that's designed to break so that the machine doesn't break. I did something kind of stupid with it. Anyway, the Encore Infinity is a perfectly capable grinder if you want to keep down in that $100 or lower range. But a good grinder is an amazing thing. Another option is a hand grinder. All right, I need to sign off because I'm getting kind of yucky. A lot of good brewers out there, a lot of good ways to do coffee. Find something you enjoy using, find out how to make it work well. Tune back in tomorrow. Joshua's going to talk deeper about grinders. I'm going to try to think of something fun for Friday. Let's do something a little bit more unusual. and fun. May or may not involve an AeroPress. I can't promise one thing or the other. I do also talk a lot about the Melita filter and the Chemex. Let's not forget that. So, all right. If you have anything fun to share about coffee, put it in the comments. In the meantime, visit batdorfcoffee.com. I'm going to push the finish button now, and I will see you on Friday. Thank you for tuning in.